Just waiting for the live to load up. Bit of a lag. And hey, it's me again. So, as those who've been paying attention to the daily vlog that I've been doing, I've done or started a 10-part series. So 3 to 5 minute videos, essentially on 10 tips on how to avoid the common traps or hurdles that people who are new to health, fitness and nutrition regimes or making changes tend to stumble over. So tip number 3 today is understand that progression is not linear and that it's perfectly normal to see peaks and valleys when you're undertaking any kind of journey. So you might be surprised to hear this, but actually at times, and any good coach will encourage you to relax your goals and behaviours from time to time. It's necessary and it's healthy. So for starters, I think it's probably important to acknowledge that not everybody has a big goal. Not everyone wants to become a bodybuilder or a powerlifter or, some sort of professional athlete. And especially when it comes to health and fitness. So it means that, not everyone needs to have 90% compliance to whatever plan that they've been given. And if you don't have big goals and you don't achieve 90% compliance, then there's very likely to be little judgment unless, of course, you are actually pursuing something where there is an athletic endeavour and an outcome that is important to you. So the coach will help correct if you're not displaying behaviours that are aligned to the goal that you set. But if your goal is just general health and nutrition, then that's a different story, right? And so I guess there's a couple of key things here. So it's your responsibility to pick your own level of commitment that works for you in your life, right? It's not anybody else's goal, so you need to be really clear on what's going to work for you. And I think any steps that you take that will improve on where you are today is going to be better, right? You're going to feel better. You're going to feel like you're progressing to something. So that's awesome. I think the trick here, though, is once you've picked the level of commitment that you're comfortable with, then it's also up to you to realistically set your expectations. My point being is that if you don't want to do 90% of compliance on your plan, but you want to you want to lose a lot of fat, or you want to get up on stage or something like that, then you're going to have some sort of compliance that is congruent again with those goals. So go back to tip 2, like we talked about yesterday. But there's also another way that you can do this as well. So to help you stick with your goals over the long term, you can consider using like a periodization strategy across all of your regimes. So it's not uncommon to periodize your training, so you can periodize your commitment, right? So for those who don't know, periodization is basically it's like an exercise principle, right? Based on changing your workouts over time to achieve different goals towards the bigger goal. So, for example, and it helps with adaptation and breaking through plateaus and all that sort of stuff. So, for example, you might have an 8-week training block or a 12-week training block that might be devoted entirely to just getting stronger. While the next 8-week phase might be devoted to getting faster, or the same when you might be building muscle and you might want to go through a phase of maintenance or stripping after you've done that. And in between these, say 8 to 12 week phases as well, it's not uncommon that 1 to 2 weeks might be devoted entirely to rest and recovery or some sort of other training. Like I, even myself, like there'll be times when I actually don't do any weight training and I will do yoga instead. Mentally it's a good break. And so there'll be times as well where I only do cardio, which I don't like, but it's a good change from doing resistance training. It gives my body a chance to rest and recover and come back stronger. So, so basically as well, like what works for exercise regimes, there's nothing to say that couldn't work with any area in your life, right? Particularly with nutrition. So, instead of like just, killing yourself over trying to stay on a, like a hardcore fat loss diet for 52 weeks straight, and, even a competitor or professional athletes wouldn't do this. It's, why not, just periodize your commitment? You might try like 8 weeks or 12 weeks of, the hard dieting, followed by 2 weeks of more relaxed diet commitment without blowing out. And then based on how your body has changed, you might just decide to return back to a fat loss plan depending on what your actual goals are, or to follow a maintenance plan, or, reverse and, basically take that body composition and try and build more muscle mass. So there's a whole gamut of things that you can try depending on what goals are and where you're at. And it can be adjusted to what else is happening in your life, right? Like, you know, things change. So, you know, typically you can adjust the plans to be more congruent with where you are and keep you on track in other ways, right? And this is where a coach can really help you to work through those periods. So this approach obviously, you know, has psychological and physiological benefits. And the beauty of it is that you can plan your commitments and your nutrition commitments or your fitness commitments around big events in your life. So if you know you're going on a big holiday in June or July, for example, well, you know, there's nothing to say that you couldn't ramp up your commitment during March, April and May, so that, you know, during June and July you can relax things and it's kind of like a reward, right? There's some successful coaches out there. There's one named Jeff Smith, and he said that reaching goals is like summiting a mountain. And I guess I'll do the little fingers to show that this is a quote. So he says that what we often forget, though, is that every mountain is surrounded by two valleys. In the journey of life, we have to come back off the mountaintops and move forward. This means that we spend much of our lives in the valleys. The secret is in knowing that that's okay and it's normal to spend some time in the valleys. So, don't know if anyone likes hiking or mountain climbing, but there you go. I guess the other thing is as well is any good coach will have, a plan that has some flexibility built into it. It's okay to relax a little bit and make incremental improvements without putting huge pressure on yourself to be perfect all the time. Unless, of course, you're 4 weeks out from comp, might be a slightly different story. But anyway, that is a whole nother story. Hope you found that useful, and stay tuned for tips 4 to 10 coming up.